In this video, we're going to look at the basic functionality that we have here on the main dashboard. But before we jump into that, I want to quickly cover the instructions page. You need to make sure that you have your client ID number. That very often is actually just your phone number, but whatever it is that we've agreed to and will be incorporated in our email communication, you need to make sure that that is included in that top yellow box. Read through the instructions. These will change over time. They're pretty basic at the moment, but they do require you to obviously indemnify anyone associated with GoPro trading. But I would like to point out that we have done our best to make very sure that the software works. We use it ourselves, but use of it is entirely at your own risk. The other thing you need to do is type in your agreement by typing in the number 10001. If you don't have that number in there, then the software will not work. So please make sure that you do that before doing anything else. All right, so let's go back to the dashboard. You need to put your user key code in at the top. This number changes on a regular basis, so please make sure that you do get the updated number. There is some grace period, obviously, but for folks who no longer wish to subscribe to the software, obviously, you will not be getting an updated key code, and so the functionality of the software will lapse. Okay, so those are the basic things that you need to have in place before doing anything else. A couple of important uh, little controls to take note of. First of all, the override switch, which we've got right at the top here, is set to 1. If it's set to anything else, then none of the functionality will work. So it's kind of an emergency override, if you like. Then the switch over here, which is next to alpha.ai, is really just a switch to stop new trades from being taken. So if that is set to anything other than 1, then the rest of the functionality will work. So if there's any open trades, they will continue to be managed, but no new trades will be taken. And then on an individual instrument basis, we have this column where if anything but a 1 is next to the instrument, then that instrument will not be traded. So you need to have a 1 next to every single instrument that you would like to trade, or if alternatively you don't want to trade it, you can delete the 1 or set it to anything else, such as a 0. All right, so that's the important stuff to get going with. Then, of course, as you'll notice, we have nothing in the risk per trade. So even though the functionality will run, if you have nothing set here or a 0 set here, then obviously you're going to have trades being taken with 0 position size, which means you won't have any trades. So you've got to set it to something of your own choice. Now, there are fixed amounts that you can choose. I really don't recommend that you use anything more than 1%, which is 0.01. So there I have, I've set that. And it will now be ready to rock and roll. All the other settings over here, I recommend that you actually leave alone until you really feel a lot more comfortable with the strategies and exactly what these options allow you to do. They are very much based on the training in the academy, so please make sure that you're completely up to speed with that. I'm not going to spend time on that right now because we really just want to be able to get you up and running with this training. If you simply leave these as is, then the default should basically work fine. I'm not saying that it's the best. I'm not guaranteeing that it will be profitable, but you do need to take time to learn the software and what each of these settings means before making any changes. Under results and risk, we've obviously, you should be very familiar with what success ratio and reward to risk ratio mean, the product of which is our expectancy, otherwise known as profit factor or profit ratio. These are all showing a 0 at the moment because there is no data. However, those things you don't change, you just observe them as your trading performance and your record in the trade history starts building up over time. The things that you do need to make sure are set correctly are the risk parameters. So first of all, your maximum open risk at any point in time needs to be set according to what your, first of all, what your risk appetite allows, but also bear in mind that the margin requirements on your account won't allow you to go beyond a certain amount anyway. So I look to make sure that no more than 10% of the account can be at risk at any point in time. If you have trades open that are close to that, and the software identifies another trade setup, but the amount of risk would go over that, it won't take another trade. The amount of open risk that you have at any point in time is in the box immediately below that. So you will see how much open risk you have at any point in time. Again, maximum lots, similar question. It's a similar control. It really is trying to do the same thing. Now, when you're trading 1% risk on a $2,000 account, your position sizes are going to be relatively small. I would say probably in the region of 0.2 to 0.3 lots. So given the fact that we also got a maximum trade number of 7 over here, I wouldn't want to go more than, say, I don't know, 2 lots maximum on your on a $2,000 account. Now, this will vary, obviously, depending on what kind of account you have, what size. But yeah, I'd say 2 lots maximum is plenty of leeway and is way more probably than you'll be able to use in any case. And then finally, maximum number of trades. I recommend no more than 7. I'd be surprised with 13 instruments if you ever get to 7. Those would be exceptional trading conditions with massive market volatility. I'm surprised if we have as many as 3 or 4 open at the same time. That does happen, but 7, well, that would be an exceptional situation. However, if market conditions are showing that you should have 7 trades open, and as long as it's not exceeding your margin requirements and so on, then you should let the software take those 7. But that is the maximum that we have at the moment. You can change that according to your risk appetite. And of course, this risk manager can be switched on or off. If there's a 1 in this box, it will be operational. Anything else, in particular, if you don't want to use it, simply set it to 0, or you can just delete that number. But I'm going to leave it for now. All right, so that's important for you to know. Other things to point out in terms of basic exclusions, without getting bogged down in the meaning of all of these controls, are excluded times. Now, we have a basic excluded time for, at the moment, that we're using anything up to 6 a.m. We're not looking to trade at the moment. Now, I'm not saying that these times are necessarily what you want to copy. It's a default. Generally, I find that if the Aussie, for instance, or the Kiwi is really going to move, it'll be earlier than that. But the best trading times are normally the London session, which starts after 6 a.m. But again, that's entirely up to you. You can change these if you like. The one thing I would say is that the software will not trade at all before 2 a.m. It shouldn't anyway. So even though this is set 1 to 6, it can't actually trade before 2 a.m. in those low liquidity periods. And you have the option then of setting other excluded periods. So if you wanted to exclude a period in the afternoon or the afternoon and the evening, you actually have 3 time sets that you can select over here. Then finally, news. You can exclude trading around a news event. This is actually tied into the control right at the bottom on the left over here, where it says news time. Now, what you want, if you don't want to trade around news events, and I have to tell you, first of all, that the performance that we talk about and that we show with our own accounts, as a rule, certainly up until now, does not take news into account. I don't use the setting at all. Why is that? Well, certainly I get stopped out around news events a lot if I'm in trades, or if they're taken around that time. But when we get a winner, it's generally around those times that we get the biggest winners. So the greatest level of convexity, if you like, takes place around news events. It is higher risk. but we have other risk parameters in place to help us protect ourselves. You'll notice that there's 3 columns here, so you could, in principle, avoid 3 news events or trading around 3 news events in any particular day. Do make sure to come and delete those once you've finished. You'll notice that you can pre-select the time. So for instance, if we wanted on US dollar to not be trading around 3:30 in the afternoon, then we would need to select all of our US dollar pairs for that. Just quickly go down. You can also just copy and paste these. So 3:30, so just copy that. The copy and paste function doesn't actually work though when the software is running during the week. So that makes it a bit trickier. That's why it's actually better just to select the boxes in any case. If you were doing it around another time, then it would be fine. In any case, so you know exactly how all of this works, I'm sure. Yeah, if you're going to, I've made my life a little bit more difficult now by bringing that up. So let's get rid of it. USD CAD takes a bit longer, but it's more practical in terms of what you'll be able to do once the software is running during the week. Obviously, if you're doing dollar pairs or yen pairs, there's a little bit extra work to be done because there's more of those than anything else. Right, so having now selected all the US dollar instruments, because let's say it's a big news event coming out at 3:30 in the afternoon. These times are broker times. Please remember that. It's not local time at all. It is the time on your broker. So you need to make sure if you identifying your news times from Forex Factory, for instance, that the time is on Forex Factory is set according to your broker time. All right, so now looking at this at 3:30 in the afternoon, what will that actually mean? Well, first of all, it means that no new trades will be taken from 60 minutes before that time and up until 15 minutes after that time. That's what these two numbers are here. So you can obviously change that at will. The third one that I've got in here, let's just put in 1 or let's say 2, is if you wanted any open trades that were taken before obviously 60 minutes, otherwise you wouldn't have an open trade. If you wanted those trades to be closed down before the news hits, you can select the number of minutes before that time that you want those trades closed down in this third little box here. So in this case, if we had a trade running from before 60 minutes, well, that kicked in 60 minutes before 3:30, so before 2:30 in the afternoon, then that trade would be closed down at 3:28, 2 minutes before that time. Whereas if we leave that blank, it will let the trade run and leave the results of that trade open to whatever the market does. All right, so those are the key controls to be aware of that you can play around with. Once again, I suggest that you leave these other ones, especially the strategy settings alone. And the selection period here, which is the HDC channel on the primary selection time frame, is quite aggressive. If you wanted to be more conservative, you could change that up to a 21 or a 34. But it is more aggressive. We get more trades with the lower setting, but the performance speaks for itself. 5 candle fractals, another setting that you don't really need to worry about at this stage. I would leave it like this, but we don't use 5 candle fractals except on the primary selection time frame. Our AI aggression factor is not something you need to worry about. Leave it at that. What I would say again is if you want to be more aggressive, this number needs to be lower. And there's 2 numbers because we're running 2 strategies, both the core and the overlay. So that's the core, that's the overlay. If you want to have more trades and be more aggressive at a potential, you might make more money, but with the higher volatility on your equity curve, then you need to make that a lower number. This is a reasonably conservative setting at 0.5. Your end time, so when trading or the app stops looking for new trades, can be changed. As I mentioned before, The latest time it will trade is 10 p.m. broker time. But by default, we stop trading at 7 p.m. during the week and at 2 p.m. on a Friday for the core strategy. It's worth bearing in mind that the overlay keeps looking to trade until 7 p.m. on a Friday, and that's hard coded. You can't change that. You could obviously change it in the excluded period if you wanted to do that on the Friday itself. But the reason we do that is over the long term, obviously the market tends to pull back on a Friday afternoon, and that's perfect conditions for the overlay strategy. If you wanted to exclude any specific days, such as a Friday, then you could set it in here. You've got two options. So if you wanted to be really conservative and exclude Monday and Friday, you would have a 1 and a 5. And then the software will not operate on Monday and Friday, and you could just leave it to run. But we like to look at everything, so I'm going to take that up for now. All right, so there will be more training, obviously, when it comes to these settings. So that, however, should be enough to get you going. I'm also just going to delete our news here because I don't bother with that. And hopefully you find that useful. And if you do have any questions, please pop them into the comments below. All right, so I'll see you in the next training video.